Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. My name is Huge Downs, and we've come up on the 4 o'clock hour. We looked at one workshop before where we were having our future proofed, and now we're going to be looking at connecting customers to a better future, hosted by Inmarsat. Dennis Winterswyk, Sales Director, and Logan Murray, Account Manager for Inmarsat. Take it away.
So a little background on Inmarsat. So Inmarsat has been the market leader for over 40 years for mobile connectivity for maritime, aviation, government, and land users. Our networks are designed for mobility and objects on the move. Established as an intergovernmental organization under the United Nations Maritime Body, the IMO, Inmarsat started providing safety services to those at sea, which later on evolved into the today well-known GMDSS service. And Inmarsat is still the leading operator for safety services at sea. In Q1 next year, we will introduce a brand new IP-based fleet safety services that will further enhance the safety and reduce the response times dramatically. From there on, Inmarsat evolved into a privately owned company and has been providing unique broadband services to the maritime industry over the past decades. We can count the largest and leading shipping companies, airline, and governments to our customer base, all based on the trust that the Inmarsat brand provides. Inmarsat owns and operates the end-to-end networks, including the satellites, in both L-band for the mission-critical communications such as GMDSS, Ka-band for our high-speed Global Express VSAT services, and S-band for a specific aviation solution. Can we go to the next slide, please? So what enables us to give our customers the best available quality and security in our global mobile networks is the fact that we own and operate the most reliable satellite and ground networks. We have implemented the highest security standard across all of our networks, and all our L-band service has a mandatory 5 nines, 99.999% availability requirements for our safety services, which we have never failed to meet. Could we go to the next slide, please? So what has happened to shipping and the satellite communications industry ever since the COVID-19 pandemic started? Well, we have analyzed the usage on over 9,000 vessels using our Fleet Express Ka-band VSAT service. And we've seen an increase of 30% in data consumption from March to June throughout the year. This was mainly driven by crew being retained on board and the need to stay connected with family and friends. But in the same period, we have also applied a number of bandwidth increases for a large portion of our customers to enhance the crew communications on board. We've also seen an increase in remote applications, such as healthcare, video collaboration tools, and remote class surveys. If the pandemic has taught us anything, it is the need for connectivity, remote services, and crew well-being is bigger than ever before. In our industry, the satellite communications industry, we've seen a number of satellite operators and service providers go into Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection, mainly caused by the sudden stop in both the aviation and the cruise business. This is why we have launched our Certainty in Uncertain Times campaign to underline the importance of a financially stable communications partner with a fully funded roadmap for new satellite deployments to stay ahead of the ever-growing bandwidth demand. Next slide, please. I would like to explain the difference between Ku-band and Ka-band services from a go-to-market perspective. Whereas Ku-band is typically a wholesale model with a number of middlemen in between, our FX Ka-band proposition is a fully managed service directly from the satellite operator. In Ku-band, the service providers buy bandwidth capacity from various satellite operators and stitch them together to form a global coverage and resell that to the shipping industry. Of course, they purchase this capacity based on the expected demand, which may lead to a performance variation in case the actual demand is higher or lower than what was expected. So why is this different with Fleet Express? Because Inmarsat owns the satellites, we have all the bandwidth that the satellites carry available for our customers. And this means we can use it all and serve all our customers with this enormous pool of bandwidth. And because we operate the end-to-end chain, we can ensure the highest grade of cybersecurity as well as quality control. Could we go to the next slide, please? Fleet Express has been designed to keep each vessel connected continuously. Our 5 GX Ka-band satellites create the global coverage by using high-energy spot beam technology. This means the signal strength is consistent throughout the globe, as opposed to wide beam technology mainly used in Ku band, where the signal strength at the edge of the coverage is far less than in the center. This spot beam technology enables us to provide a global high-throughput satellite service on a small 60-centimeter GX antenna. Next slide, please. To guarantee our commitment for continuous connectivity, an unlimited L-band backup in the form of the fleet broadband is included on every vessel as a failover connectivity for the GX network in case of a Ka-band service interruption caused by antenna blockage, technical failure, or any other reason. Next slide, please. With Fleet Express, it is no longer needed to sacrifice quality for cost. The main driver for cost of connectivity is the committed information rate, or CIR, the amount of bandwidth that is guaranteed on the network at all times for your vessel. On top of this CIR, there is the maximum information rate, a burstable maximum that is subject to availability. As mentioned before, we can use the full satellite capacity to fulfill the MIR, resulting in the best MIR fulfillment available in the market. And this means a very, very high average performance at an affordable monthly cost. Next slide, please. A unique feature of Fleet Express is the ability to establish multiple pipes of bandwidth, which we call SVNs, synthetic virtual networks, with the vessel. This means that, for example, voice, but also Inmarsat management traffic for remote support use their own dedicated pipe of bandwidth, and it doesn't come from the customer contracted bandwidth. The same goes for various other over-the-top services, such as our Fleet Data IoT platform, Fleet Connect third-party application provider bandwidth, and charter bandwidth for temporary additional bandwidth in case of a client needs it on board. Next slide, please. To maximize the performance consistency, we have the possibility to move capacity from a low-density area to a crowded area, such as the English Channel. Our new GX7, 8, and 9 satellites that are on order have the capacity to form thousands of spot beams and move the capacity along with the demand dynamically in real time. All our teleports have an active backup teleport in the same region that will automatically take over in case of a severe signal degradation caused by very bad weather. Next slide, please. To stay ahead of the growing data demand, Inmarsat has a strong commitment towards the maritime industry to stay the leading operator. Within the next 4 years, we will add another 8 satellites to the fleet, whereby each new satellite carries more capacity than the current 4 satellites combined. GX6A and B, scheduled for launch in 2021 and 2022, will also carry an L-band payload to future-proof the fleet broadband backup facility. GX10A and 10B, scheduled for launch in 22 and 23, will be high elliptical orbit satellites, a new technology for Inmarsat, providing the first high-speed coverage over the Arctic region north of 70 degrees. Next slide, please. Inmarsat is committed to keep helping the maritime industry forward, where we are now at the early days of digitalization. Vessel data, and particularly the analysis of this data, will help shipping to become more sustainable and more profitable. Our Fleet Express connectivity ecosystem, along with our Fleet Data standardized IoT platform, which is included free of charge by default, is the perfect starting point to achieve these goals. My colleague Logan will tell you more in detail about Fleet Express and the value-added services Inmarsat has to offer. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Over
Dennis.
to you, Logan.
Thank you, Dennis. And a quick thank you to everybody who is tuning into this workshop and this conference in general. There's been a lot of really interesting conversations happening the last couple of days. So quick introduction. My name is Logan Murray. I'm an account manager with Inmarsat, focusing specifically on the merchant area in North America. So I'm going to walk you through what Inmarsat is doing in the industry and some of the experiences I've had working with my customers over the next few minutes. So go ahead and do next slide, please. So Dennis kind of did an introduction on Global Express. So what I want to reiterate, I'm not going to spend too much time, but just go through a couple points that I think are very useful to keep in mind when you're talking about Global Express, specifically for the shipping industry. The biggest one here is Ka band. So you'll often see this come up when you're comparing different providers in the field, that most are using Ku, which is a different technology from Ka. Really what it boils down to is Ka is a higher frequency. So you actually have higher throughput, up to 10 times more in comparison to Ku. And because Ka is a newer technology and there's less competition in that space, it is much easier for us as Inmarsat to add additional capacity and additional features to that network than a different Ku provider. Now, one question that I get pretty frequently when we're talking about it is rain fade. So back when Inmarsat first started investing into our Global Express network, we did raise some eyebrows and got some criticism about going for Ka technology because the theory, higher frequency and more susceptible to rain fade or interference. So that's a question I often get. Firstly, Ka is not an untested technology. It's actually been used by the military for more than a decade previously before we became commercial with it. And they are hardly an undemanding customer base right there. But what we found after the research releasing Global Express is that since we own the network from the satellites to the ground infrastructure, we have a lot of flexibility with how we control how the data is transferred. And basically what it means is that all the research that's been done afterwards has shown less than a 1% difference between the performance of a Ka network and a Ku network under heavy rain or heavy weather or interference. So really what that means is Ka is a technology we're investing in because we feel like it's going to give the most bandwidth as digitalization and the growing demands of our customers continues to increase. Another thing about capacity in particular is with our network, the way we have designed with spot beam technology, as Dennis mentioned, and also flexibility, we are able to, in real time, respond to changes in demand. So if there's a particular area or particular region that needs additional capacity, it is much easier for us to do that through Ka than a traditional Ku network. And then the last thing I want to mention there is the Arctic region. So I actually have a lot of customers who work in the Arctic region far north of Alaska. And historically, it's been very difficult to get consistent communications up that far north. So over the next couple of years, as we release coverage in the Arctic region, we're going to be the first ones to provide a fully high-speed coverage up in the north. And that is very exciting, both for our aviation customers, of course, but on the shipping and merchant side as well. So we're going to move on. Go ahead and do next slide, please. That's kind of the design idea for GX, but since the launch in 2015, what's been the impact? Well, in the maritime and specifically, we have over 9,000 vessels currently installed with Fleet Express. We have 27 leading airlines and counting, with more than 600 different business jets using our service. And then we're also, since the launch, it's been widely adopted across governments around the world. And I always like to point out that one specifically for my merchant customers, because as you know, cybersecurity is a huge conversation right now. And governments have always been on the forefront of those requirements, those compliances. So as a commercial entity with Fleet Express, you get all the benefits of having a network and a service that is fit for government use for no additional cost. So I always like to point that one out. And then when we're talking about impact, Global Express has won a numerous rewards in the industry. Just a couple examples listed here. Smart Sea for the maritime, the World Travel Awards for aviation, and the Mobility Satcom Innovation Award for the government side. So since its introduction into the market, we've seen very, very impressive results. Go ahead, next slide, please. all of that putting together kind of a recap is Fleet Express is combined with our design so far and the roadmap that's fully funded that we have in plan. It is a product and a service that we expect can service your digital demands now and for the years to come. Go ahead, next slide, please. When we're talking specifically about maritime, we do actually have a wide range of products depending on what type of requirements you have and what type of vessels you have. What we've noticed over the years is that as you get farther away from just email, just voice, and you're moving into IoT, crew welfare, cybersecurity, things that are becoming more and more important, your bandwidth requirements go up and your speed goes up. So often that's when our customers start moving up to Fleet Express, which is our premier connectivity platform. Go ahead and next slide, please. So Fleet Express, in a nutshell, is we took our award-winning Global Express network with the speed and the capacity that we need, and we combined it with our award-winning, resilient, highly resilient Fleet Broadband network to provide a reliable, consistent, and scalable solution for the maritime industry. Next slide, please. So getting into a little bit of the technical drill down, on the right side, you'll see a relatively high-level schematic, but I always think it's important to talk about how it actually works. So on the left side of that schematic, you'll see what actually happens on board the vessel. So as part of Fleet Express, like I mentioned, you get two separate technologies. You get your VSAT, which is the primary, the higher speed, and then you get a unlimited Fleet Broadband backup, which is used to provide that redundancy that we need in the maritime market. In between there, we have equipment that monitors both of those connections and fully controls them. So if the VSAT goes offline for, let's say, example, vessels coming into port and there's crane activity and it blocks the connection, the equipment on board monitors that and then reacts in real time and fails it over to the Fleet Broadband, providing a seamless connectivity for your vessel. Okay. And then as that happens, it continues to monitor that. And if for any reason, when the VSAT connection comes back online, it automatically fails back over without any intervention by the vessel, by yourself, or anybody at Inmarsat. So it's a fully managed system that's constantly monitoring and constantly keeping an eye on things. In addition to that, which is always important, it has full diagnostic, reporting, and remote capabilities. So in the event, if something does happen, our 24/7 support team is able to remotely connect and diagnose the hardware on board, and they have a full 360 view of everything that's happening with the equipment. So it takes a lot of that pressure off of the crew or yourself to report and list any potential issues that are going on. So that's on the vessel side. So when we move to the shore side, each satellite has two separate receiving stations connected to it. And the reason that's important is a lot of the times what you'll see with KU providers is they have a single teleport for each satellite. But if there's, let's say, a weather event at that location, that could potentially disrupt all the vessels in that area. With our design, we wanted to make sure that we had complete redundancy on the shore side as well. So if for any reason there is a weather event at one station, that data automatically transfers over to the secondary station, which is in a completely different physical location, providing that seamless connectivity that all but reduce or eliminates outages due to weather, which is a big thing and historically has been in the maritime industry. So moving forward, you can go ahead and do next slide, 22. So when it really comes down to it, we take a step back from the technical slide. Fleet Express was designed with a few key concepts in mind. One, network reliability, like I mentioned, building that redundancy in, which is not something that other providers tend to do. Make sure that you have a network that is consistent and reliable no matter what's going on. It also needs to be global, so that way you know that if you have a vessel going anywhere around the world, you're going to get a consistent, same experience. And then it also needs to be continuous. So things do happen, unfortunately, either expected or unexpected, that can affect communications. So with the fully unlimited VSAT system and then the fully unlimited fleet broadband backup, we designed it so that way it's a seamless failover. If anything happens to the VSAT, it goes to that time-tested technology that is fleet broadband, and you have continuous connectivity, and your business, your critical business services continue to operate. And then from a safety perspective, it's near and dear to the heart of everybody who works in Inmarsat. We were originally a safety company. We're a safety company now. So that's always a design philosophy that's put into any of our products. Fleet Express, for example, the unlimited fleet broadband is actually GMDS compliant now. So the technology that's been saving lives for 40 years can now be used as part of that backup fleet broadband unit. So if you have an Inmarsat C, you also have it with Fleet Express as well. And I think the most important thing to mention is a long-term maritime commitment. So we're living in turbulent times. There's a lot of changes that are happening day by day. And I think it's important to know that you have a provider providing business critical and crew critical services to your vessels that has been in the industry for 40 years and is continuing to invest and improve upon their services. So when you take a look at the way we've designed our systems so far to provide that full redundancy, and then looking at our investment plan, how many satellites we're launching, the capacity, the improvements we want to make, you can be confident that with Fleet Express, this is going to be a product that works now, but also improves and grows as you do. Next slide, please. And actually, we can move to the next slide. That's 24. Okay. So the most interesting thing that's kind of caught me talking about these last couple of days with all these presentations is it's much more about than just having internet connection or just having a voice connection. It is about getting services that help you day in and day out, both on shore side and on the vessel as well. So Fleet Express was designed not as a VSAT solution primarily, but as a digital platform that we can add different services and value adds to as your business requirements grow and change. Focusing on 3 different areas, and we'll go with them in a little bit more detail. You have digitalization, IoT, of course, cybersecurity, and crew welfare. So we'll jump into those. Next slide, please. So fleet data. One of the things that really jumped out to me listening to some of these presentations is we are moving farther away from the question of, is data important? To, how do we get the data off board in a secure, cost-effective, and bandwidth-efficient way? And most kind of when I've been talking to customers and looking around, one of the big options that are in the industry right now is you go with a full one-stop shop provider who provides everything from the sensors and hardware on board to the actual application that you use in your office. And that can be appealing, but there's some disadvantages to it. One, typically there's very significant upfront costs. So you're paying for hardware for each specific vessel that's proprietary to that provider. 2, the application you get, it might work for now, but sometimes it can't be flexible and you might be locked into what kind of data you can actually receive and look at. And then 3, you're typically using your existing communication system on board. So that can have a few different issues. If you're not on an unlimited connection, you could be dealing with overages and hidden costs. Or at best, you're competing with your business bandwidth that you're using to, for your operations. Now you're using that to get this data off the vessel, and that can cause some issues. So from our perspective, because we own the infrastructure and we own the network and we own the technology, we're able to provide a solution that is a complete end-to-end solution focusing on collecting, transferring, and analyzing your data from your vessel. It's sensor agnostic, so you can connect it to any automation system, VDR, existing sensors on board. It can be easily added to an existing Fleet Express installation. It has a small footprint, so you're not paying large upfront costs or having to store quite a bit of equipment on board. And because it piggybacks off of Fleet Express, you have a dedicated connection. So it's already unlimited, but now you have a completely separate connection where that data can be passed to shoreside without affecting your business or your crew operations at all. Once it gets to the cloud, it is stored there, and you have full say over what happens with that data at that point. You can review it in a cloud dashboard. You can hook up to it and do your own analytics, or you can partner with any of our digital partners who have been certified to use that data and provide analysis that you need to make good business decisions. So they're experts in fuel efficiency, route optimization, machine learning, whatever it is, if you need per vessel, per fleet, or even just as things change down the line. And because it's completely secured, you're able to make those decisions with it. So that's one side of the coin. Another side that we can talk about, well, IoT is how to solve the problem of getting the data off board your vessel. What happens if there is a service that you want to provide to your vessel with some of the same issues? So we can go to next slide, 26. So Fleet Connect works in a very similar way. We've partnered up with a variety of application providers who can provide different services directly to your vessels. And instead of them having to install additional hardware on board or use your existing communication system, they can use a dedicated connection to provide those services at no extra cost to you. So Vicand HealthNet is a really good example of this. They are the first all-inclusive medical subscription program for mariners. Fleet Connect enables them to do live video chats and secure data exchanges with no disruption to your operating bandwidth or your crew welfare programs, and no hidden costs on top of that as well. So if we want to go to next slide, I'll introduce some of our partners. So this is our current ecosystem of digital partners that we've certified and worked with so that they can use Fleet Data, they can use Fleet Connect to provide those valuable services to your company, to your vessels. It is ever growing. At the bottom of that slide, you'll see a maritime.inmarsat.com website that you can go to, and you can learn a little bit more about any of our providers. And you can also see how they interact with Inmarsat and what technologies they use. Okay. So go ahead and move to the next slide, safety and security. So again, cybersecurity, really what jumps out to me here as a big conversation the last couple of days and a big conversation in the industry, especially with IMO 2021 right around the corner. So we have quite a few different things that we're working on there, but specifically what I want to talk about here, and if you can go to the next slide, 29, is Fleet Secure Endpoint. So Fleet Secure Endpoint is a endpoint protection software that interacts with Fleet Express as additional value add that provides all the same services that you would expect with off-the-shelf antivirus, so malware protection, antivirus, spamware, all of that. But it's designed specifically for the maritime industry. So it has a lot of benefits that you wouldn't see from anything else off the shelf. Low bandwidth consumption, multiple database scanning. So that way, if it's disconnected for a period of time, you're still protected. But specifically with IMO 2021, there are numerous features here designed to allow you and help you become compliant with those rules. Some of those is remote configuration, so that way you can be confident that your entire fleet is configured the way you need it to be without connecting to every single vessel. Asset management, so you can tell exactly what's on each PC on each vessel and you can tell when something gets connected that's not supposed to be there. And then alerting and reporting. So if anything does happen, if there is antivirus or a virus on board, if there is a USB that's connected or a PC you're not expecting, you and the vessel can both be notified in real time. And then you can also do risk assessment reporting. So you can design and implement a plan directly in Fleet SharePoint of if something does happen, how are you going to recover? And that can be easily exported if needed to ensure that you are compliant. So moving to the next slide, Fleet Mail. So we don't talk about mail programs much these days, but Fleet Mail, we're on the conversation of IMO 2021. Fleet Mail is actually something that I really like to mention. It has a lot of really good features specifically for a maritime email program, a friendly web dashboard. It's cloud-based. It has file retention and backup services through the cloud in case anything happens. But specifically, it has a robust, secure cybersecurity offering built in anti-phishing, antivirus, spam management, and additional advanced threat detection. So between those two services combined with Fleet Express, it provides a very robust cybersecurity solution. And then finally, when we're talking about not so much cybersecurity, but safety, I always like to mention Fleet Care, which is our managed maintenance program for all the equipment as part of the Fleet Express solution. And this is important because what we've done is we've taken the warranty, the annual service, all of those things that you need to do to ensure your equipment is operating 100% all the time. And we've condensed it into a single program that provides full coverage and a managed service. We are a global company, but we do have a full global service network of certified professional engineers across the globe that can provide maintenance in ports whenever you need it, but can also do annual services remotely. And if anything does happen, we're able to respond that very quickly. The best part about Fleet Care is instead of paying those one-off and potentially having your budget thrown out of whack or bill shock, it's a fixed monthly fee that you're able to budget for, and it makes sure that your equipment is running in optimal ways throughout the entire year. So go ahead and go to the next slide, please. Finally, our last topic here is crew welfare. With everything that happened with COVID and the inability for a lot of crew members to depart from their vessels and see their family, this is something that we focused on quite a bit here in Inmarsat. And it kind of breaks down in a couple of different ways of how does the vessel managers and the vessel owners want to manage it, and what type of provisions do they want to supply. So we'll start with data and browsing. So if you can go to the next slide, 33. One of the things that I often run into when I'm talking to my customers is they want to provide a web browsing experience for their crew members, but they're not sure how to manage the logistical point of it. Crew accounts, web policies, allotments of data, those type of things, with either this low amount of resources, or if they have a small IT team, because there's a lot of work that goes into that day in and day out to keep that maintained. And the other thing is, how do I make sure? Yes, I want my crew to browse, but how do I make sure that that's not going to disrupt business operation, critical business operations? How do I manage that as well? Fleet Hotspot is an answer to both of those issues. So it is a easily enabled add-on to any Fleet Express installation. And what it does is it provides a completely separate network and connection for the crew members to use, where they can manage their own accounts and they can purchase internet themselves directly through Inmarsat. So you don't have to worry about password resets or any of that just takes time out from what you're trying to accomplish for your IT team. In addition, because it's built through Fleet Express, we're able to provide a completely separate data connection. So no matter what they do on board, that's not going to interfere with your business operations. And it can be easily combined with other crew welfare solutions as well. Okay, please move to the next slide, which is 34. Okay, so when we're looking at kind of talking about data, but now we're talking about voice. So ChatCard has been a product that we at Inmarsat have had and has been very successful for a number of years over fleet broadband. Essentially, it is a way of prepaying and providing crew a affordable means of keeping contact with their friends and family while at sea. I'm pleased to announce that as of this year, the ChatCard system has been extended to Fleet Express. So the same product, the same solution can be used both on the VSAT side and the fleet broadband side. And what that means is, as a vessel operator or a vessel manager, you can provide crew calling services to your crew, which doesn't impact your bottom line. And it ensures that they're able to keep in touch with their family and friends no matter what's happening in the world. Next slide, please. Finally, we have the Infinity Smart Box solution as well. So while Fleet Hotspot is very good for vessels and operators that want to provide crew welfare, but they want to be hands-off, there are a lot of customers of mine who want additional controls. They want to be able to make sure that their crew members can get a certain amount of connectivity or can only go to the business websites, or they want to make sure that they can remotely control the PCs on board and make sure they know what they're doing. So Infinity is a solution that sits on your local network on board, and it provides a large list of different features. The most important that I've found that have been useful is centralized management of everything from firewall to web policies to fleet-wide rules. It provides a very robust crew management system. You can create accounts. You can have them only browse to certain websites or certain times of the day. And then it provides efficiency in browsing as well. And it also has virtual management and virtual machine capabilities as well. So it's a big boon to IT teams that are wanting to get more hands-on control of what's going on with their computers and their crew members on board the vessel. Go ahead and go next slide, please. So finishing us off here, I want to go over just a case study because I think it's always good to see how this stuff actually works in real life. So this case study is for a shipping company that provides specialized services to carry frozen fish, and other services supplying fuels, fishing equipment, foods. They do shipbuilding, management operation, trading house. So as you can see there, they have a lot of business and probably a lot of different requirements based on which vessel you're looking at. So it's important that whatever solution they get is something that's scalable and also flexible depending on what happens. So the challenge there, the two things brought to the table is increased data speed to facilitate better business communications. That seems obvious. And then they also want to provide crew welfare. They want to give them the ability to communicate with their families and browse. So what we've offered them and what eventually checked the boxes for them is a 4 megabyte plan. So it's 4 megabits downloading, plus our Infinity and our Fleet Hotspot solutions. So they have a small 5 to 10 vessels on the business network. They have a few of those set up with free internet, so they can communicate with, read the news, talk to their business websites. They have their own VPN, so their current existing way of managing vessels that's supported already. They can access anything on board through TeamViewer using our system. They have CCTVs around the vessel that are fully supported. And now they're able to provide their crew with internet. And actually, they have a very interesting setup here where they combine the Infinity and the Fleet Hotspot to provide a very customized and flexible solution for their crew. Through the Infinity, they're able to provide 1 gigabyte a month of data to their crew through those user accounts. And then if the crew goes through that allotment and they want to browse more, they can buy that directly through the Fleet Hotspot. So they kind of get the best of both worlds there. Now, what is the result? Because that's really what matters here. So after rolling out these solutions on the vessel, we did a kind of an exit interview, and we found that the actual data speed they're experiencing, not what's marketed, but what they're actually using day in, day out, has increased significantly from before. They found that their team viewer, their remote management application of choice, they can use it from shore whenever they need to with exceptional results. And then, very important thing, the crew's happy. They're happy with Fleet Hotspot. They're happy with the allotment through the Infinity. They already have tests watching YouTube on 4 devices at the same time. And then the best part is that had no impact on the business network, which is kind of the dream at that point. So we can go ahead and move to my last slide. I just wanted to, finishing a little bit under time, but I just wanted to say a quick thank you again for everybody who tuned in for this workshop. And participating in the other presentations the last couple of days. So thank you very much.
Very interesting presentation this afternoon. We thank you very much. Been dealing with Inmarsat majority of my career. Good company to deal with. I don't see that there are any questions up on the chat board. So I wish you good sales, good marketing, and have a pleasant day. But remember, come to the Comedy Club at 6 o'clock. Thank you.